Hi, everybody. Welcome to Office Hours. If you're joining us from YouTube, just know that in the chat below, you can actually, or on many of these, you can actually find a way to actually join us here on Office Hours in Zoom. So check that out. If you're here and you're brand new and you're curious about how this all works, let me give you a little bit of a tour around. You're probably in as an attendee. That's how you start. The folks that are here and the panelists came in a little bit earlier. We actually opened the doors at 6 and start having a pretty loose discussion. That discussion is meandering and sometimes technical and sometimes not technical, but you're more than welcome to come as early as 6 o'clock in the morning. And then at 6:30, we distribute the Discord link, or sometime between 6:30 and 6:40. But if you want the Discord link, then you need to be here by 6:30. And that the Discord is, for those of you who aren't familiar with it, it is where almost 500 of us also keep talking between these sessions about technical issues and all things related to media. So you're more than welcome to join us there. We start our around 6:40. We start our mic checks. Once we start mic checks, we close the panel. So if you want to join the panel, you have to be here before 6:40 and raise your Zoom hand. So that is that's the way to get in and become a panelist. If you're going to join the panel, just make sure that you have good audio, good video, good internet. We have a relatively high standard here for how people look and sound. And so compared to most Zooms. So you want to just kind of think through that process as you join, but we would love to have you. So if you're sitting here listening to us and thinking, these guys are full of it, I know better, I know that subject better than they do, well, then come join and prove it. That's all I got to say. We'd love to have you here. So come argue with us, on the and provide your knowledge into this panel. So you're more than welcome to come, and so we hope to see you here. We still have a couple spaces left. I mean, today was a little bit of a light panel. We only have 32, but sometimes we get up to 40, 45. 49 is going to be our limit for now, and we may tighten that up a little bit. We're going to see how that goes. Anyway, so that is kind of the setup here. Then just to kind of give you a structure, from 6 to 7 is kind of a loose conversation. From 7 to 8, we answer questions in the Q&A. You can see the Q&A down there. Our request is that you ask our requirement is that you have one question per post, that question is less than 5 lines, and it truly is a question, not a comment. We'll just dismiss everything that doesn't fit into that model. There's just a lot of questions coming in. You're better off answering them early. And if you're not asking questions and you're simply watching this, make sure to vote on questions, because that's going to help guide us into what we talk about next. The 7 to 8 hour is really all about those questions. And so if you have questions there, now, of course, you can use the chat and just keep on talking amongst yourself. You can even ask questions amongst yourself. We're not going to really interact with the chat very much within the panel. So just kind of to set your expectations. Then we have a second hour most days, or almost all days. And the second hour today, Jeffrey Powers is going to be talking about Wirecast, which we're very excited about. So he's going to talk about how he uses it and why he likes it, and answer your questions about Wirecast. And then tomorrow is the long day. Saturday is the long day. We have 7 hours of fun. We open the doors at 6. From 7 to 9, we do Q&A. 9 o'clock in the morning, Nick Jushishin from Drexel University is going to be talking about Unreal Engine. At 10 o'clock, Steve Bays is going to be talking about Final Cut. He's a former senior product manager for Final Cut, so it's a pretty good source there. At 11, Alex Goldner is going to talk about building templates for broadcast. And at noon, we think that Aaron Mailer will be here talking about networking. I'm still waiting to hear from Aaron, and I'll hopefully know by the end of this show. He's on a big project right now, and he may or may not be able to join us. I was talking to him yesterday. So hopefully at noon, we're going to be talking about networking, unless his current project precludes that. So anyway, so that's what we have set up. Hopefully, you ask questions, be part of the process. If you want to share this, if you've come a couple of times and you think this is great, and you want to make sure that it's available to everyone, anybody that you think would be interesting, we're looking for more people like the kind of people that are showing up here. You can go ahead and share the link that I just put in the chat. So you can put that in wherever you want, wherever you think it makes sense. Anyway, without further ado, we're going to go ahead and hand it off to Chris. Chris, what questions do we have coming in? Oh,
Good
and
morning.
I want to set one thing up. Sorry, I introduced. For the panelists, try to look at those questions that look like they're probably going to come up next. Read them, think about them, and then we'll kind of be ready to raise hands for those questions. Anyway, go ahead, Chris.
Let's get started. Good morning, Alex. Elliot Murphy, our own Elliot Murphy from Portland. He's on site, and he had an occasion where while they're uploading, somebody started pushing files around the network, and now everything, got stomped on. He's looking for a good monitoring tool to keep track of network problems. What's a good way to do that?
Well, I mean, you need a good router. So, like you need a router that you can set up multiple VLANs, so really setting up VLANs is the solution, which is that everybody lives in their own path, and that may limit some of folks, when we're doing streaming. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm going to ask the question that a lot of people are thinking. Can you explain a VLAN? What's a VLAN?
I sure can. And we'll throw it up. But VLANs are virtual local area network. So VLAN, that's what you have there. And so basically what it does is it takes your LAN and it basically allows you to create it's as if you had multiple physical local area networks, so multiple physical switches and so on and so forth. And it basically allows you to then say, you guys are living in this virtual LAN and you guys are living in this virtual LAN, and you guys can't cross over. So if you say I'm gonna build this virtual LAN out, it means that everybody passing FTP can't affect. If you have another one that is your streaming, then it has its own bandwidth protected away from what everybody else is doing. And usually what we do is we take 90% of it and then we give everybody else like a little trickle, and they can't figure out why it takes so long for their files to go up. But no, you just have to make sure that, but that allows you to build protected bandwidth for multiple teams. Oftentimes when we're working on a job, we may see 5, 6, 10 virtual LANs that are, VLANs that are built for different teams so that they don't stomp on each other to handle that exact thing. We use Meraki. A lot of people use a variety of Cisco tools or Ubiquity tools for most of those things, or what we see the most often at events. Colin, go ahead.
I took the question, the premise of the question to be that this was a venue where you didn't have control over the network. So at some level, you won't be able to install your own router and run your own private network. Won't be able to access the native IT team at that facility and have them configure VLANs for you. And in those cases, you want a network monitoring tool. We discussed this in the past, and the preferred tool for that sort of thing is SmokePing. Essentially, you run it on a little box of any size, single board computer, Raspberry Pi, whatever you've got. And it runs a continuous ping test. It gives you latency and jitter information, which doesn't give you actual bandwidth information. The only way to get actual bandwidth information is to either look at the throughput on a router directly, or to actually push a bunch of data, which you need to reserve for your actual stream. So those are your options. And those are the order of preference. As Alex said, if you can get a VLAN set up, do that. And that way you don't have to worry about it. But what's really weird in the premise of this question is most networks these days are switched such that you would not see massive reduction in performance from people doing things outside of the direct path of your live stream.
Well, and one thing that to keep in mind, kind of related to that, is make those requests early. A big secret to a lot of our live streams is not that we're really good when we get on. I mean, we're good at what we do when we get on site, but really it's all the pre-pro. It's all the requests we make before the event, all the load-in times, the process. When are we getting graphics? When are we getting our playbacks? When are we getting how our internet's set up? It's all the logistics that happen up to the live event that really makes the live. Once we get there, we're hopefully just executing. We're not figuring a bunch of stuff out. We try to figure out.
When you say early, give the local IT guys as much time as you possibly can.
Yeah,
multiple weeks, if you can.
No, absolutely. And so I totally agree with that. And with everyone, the more runway you get, try to use up that runway. Now, we don't really worry that much more than a month out for a lot of things. I mean, there's planning and there's process. It's hard to get people's attention a month out. So oftentimes, but if you can, a couple weeks, even a week, but the main thing is that you however much time you can get everybody in communication and make those requests, the more likely you're going to have what you expect, and really trying to think through everything. I'm going to load in, I'm going to have this, I'm going to get signals from these people. What do I need from all of them? It's hard because you really want to think through all those things and make those requests. And when you make those requests, there'll be a temptation for people to do that over the phone or over a call. You definitely want to put that in writing. When you're making requests, you put that in an email, you put that in a structure of these are the things that we need. Some people will call it a rider. I don't usually make it that formal, but I definitely have it in writing of this is what we need. And when we don't get it, hey, we can't give that to you or whatever, then there's in writing, there's a, hey, this could be a problem. And here's what could happen if we don't do that. Those emails are super useful 2 weeks out when things go wrong on site, when they didn't give you what you asked for. So, it just kind of as a logistical process, you ask for it, but then you also want to codify that. And that turns into a useful lesson for a lot of partners and clients later. Go ahead, Tucker.
IT people are very, very used to and very good at saying no. And they're used to people not understanding their world. So really engaging person to person, making sure that you have a ton of mutual respect in there and be very clear with what you're asking for, and always make sure that what you're asking for is testable. And so that you can come in and say, all right, we're at this point, test, did it succeed? And having a test that they can run prior and say, hey, once you have it set, please do this test, send me the results, can be really, really effective.
As a live streaming person, the one person that I tend to end up having a lot of beers with are oftentimes the IT folks. And so it turns out they're generally pretty smart and pretty cool people to hang out with, and you learn a lot about the infrastructure of what you're inside of and how these infrastructures work and what the realities of their challenges are and why they're saying no, and it really helps kind of flesh all of that out for you. Okay, next question.
So Brett Ramsey says that the Australian government is shutting down community television. Does anyone know of an affordable OTT network solution to set up a low-budget Netflix-style service we could set up as a possible alternative?
Garrick?
We just started using lightcast.com and have been pretty happy with them. We're spinning up a couple OTT apps with them, and it's somewhat comparably affordable.
Yeah, I mean, the one that some people are using to get across OTT as well as a lot of different platforms, and it does have some expense. So this isn't like a cheap thing, but Vimeo has a whole like channel system that you can subscribe to, and they'll help you build channels. And what happens is you pay per platform, but what happens is that you can activate all of those things and make those changes across that platform. And it's they're probably, as far as a channel in a box, across many platforms and to take care of it, they're probably the leaders in that area as far as that goes. But they're a little bit more expensive as far as the solutions. But we're seeing a lot of our clients looking pretty seriously at it or using it. Joseph?
Yeah, there are a lot of solutions out there. And if you already have a website and you're already paying someone for a cloud solution, like if you're paying VDMS or Brightcove, odds are that they already have a turnkey solution that you can use, and they already house all of your assets. Zype is another one to basically do what you were describing with Vimeo, where you can say, well, I'll use your template, I'll give you my video assets, and I'll flip on the iOS, Roku, and tvOS apps because that's what I need to use right now. He also said Netflix style, and I don't know whether that means that he's looking for
that's what kind of led me towards a Vimeo type thing where you can have either live or VOD, and a lot of those things kind of all reside there. So it's not just a broadcast; it's a lot of different assets that might be available. So hopefully that gets you down the road. I mean, I think that one of the things we should think about is whether OTT really matters. In the long term. I mean, it matters for now, but we really get obsessed with how do we get on televisions, and the future of viewing is moving all over the place. And I think that especially as community television, I've been playing with the idea of creating some kind of community radio or television or whatever, here in Novato, California. But my plan is really, I don't even consider the set-top box as like, I don't care. If I can figure out some way to have it pop out there, sure. But I know that the vast majority of the folks, at least that live where I live, would watch it on the phone, on their iPad, on their computer, on their whatever it is. Doesn't really matter, to me. how they ingest it. What's more important to me is figuring out, and what's stalled me right now is figuring out how they're going to communicate with the show. So if I'm having a live show, what I want is callers. I mean, I want to do what I'm doing here, but for the community. Go ahead, Chris.
Please don't tell me I'm the only one who watches office hours on their smart TV on YouTube with their family in the evenings.
You might be the only one, at least on the panel.
Okay,
but that's
I feel
impressive.
Weird now.
All right, next question.
Ludwig wants to know, he wants to capture and process a video podcast on the go with his iPad. What hardware, mic, and software would I need to do that? It's an interesting question.
Wait, so
it's a video podcast, he says.
Can you repeat that again?
I would like to capture and process a video podcast on the go with my iPad. What hardware, mic, and software would I need for that? I have a few ideas.
Go for it. Go, Chris.
Rode, I think, makes a thing where you can plug it into a lightning and it gives you 2 lavs. That's half of the thing. So each of you could sit and have a lav and talk. And if you used double take, or we call it double tap, it's a thing that Filmic make. It's a kind of an add-on to Filmic. It allows you to record from the front and rear cameras simultaneously. And you can tell it to like just make me a split screen. So you're not going to have all the control of if you were using more gear, but you could get a split screen of the front and rear cameras, and you'd each be on a lav, and then I'd take it into like LumaFusion and top and tail it and post it.
I think it just depends on how many people you want to how many people you want to have on the podcast. If it's just you, then it's but if you're doing a discussion, the other thing to remember is that if you get really good audio and then you have a bunch of cameras, a bunch of cell phones, you can always cut all that stuff back in. You let the cell phones just capture nat sound. So just have all the phones capturing audio.
Switcher Studio,
and you could cut. You don't even need to do that. You can literally use Final Cut. Like just all I'm saying is just capture ISOs across all of them, throw them all into Final Cut.
He wants to process it all on his iPad, so it'd be LumaFusion.
Oh, okay, LumaFusion. Yep, and you can put that all in. The thing is that what I will say about all podcasts in general is that the audio is the most important piece of this puzzle, and so I really don't believe in labs for podcasts anymore, because so many people listen to those podcasts that in labs just really don't sound very good. They're really far away from the source. And so if I would rather, and I used to do this at NAB and IBC, I would do my little podcasts and I would carry around SM58s. I had 4 of them. And I had a little sound devices, I think a 744 or something like that. It's a little bit much, but you can now get a Mix Pre 6 or something like that. And now you're recording great audio, and then you mix that with whatever cell video you get. The video is fine, especially if you're just doing it around and you're carrying it around. But what's really important is the audio. And so you just want to make sure that you're getting, and I guess SM58s, obviously, if you want to go Cadillac, get them a bunch of 4166s or 4066s, have everybody put headsets on, and they will sound great. But the SM58s have been, as long as you tell people where to hold the mic and you practice a little bit and they learn how to do that, you can usually get a really good sound. And just, it's more important, even if they're holding the mic up, it's more important to get great audio than to have it be, video people just do not get audio. And they don't get how important it is, and the listenability. And the reason we do audio checks before every one of these shows is because the audio is more important than the video. We do the video once a week. We do the audio every day, because that is what makes this listenable, is constantly tightening this up. Jeffrey, and then Joseph, and then Sky, and then we'll move on.
So Adobe has Adobe Rush, which you can put on your iPad for an editor, like LumaFusion.
Sorry, you're breaking up. This is a perfect example. Your audio is coming apart. I don't know what happened to your audio there.
Really?
So
let's talk about good audio on a broken mic.
That was amazing. You couldn't have cued that better.
Is that's not working then, or
it's breaking up? It's breaking up. We're going to move on, Jeffrey. But
okay,
I know what you're saying. Yeah, take a look at that. The Rush is there. I opened Rush and I couldn't figure. I was like, I don't understand. And so I moved on. I was like, and I don't know anybody. I was asking a bunch of TikTokers. I was on a panel with a bunch of TikTokers, and I was asking it. And then I had to talk to a whole bunch of people before that show, and just didn't find anybody using it. And then I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna move on. Joseph.
Yeah, I was gonna give an audio tip. Hopefully, my audio isn't breaking up.
No,
but
sounds good.
yeah, cool. So if you're on an iPhone or iPad and you're just looking to record something like a quick round table, you can use just the regular. This is the Lightning to this. They call. I think the Apple calls it the camera kit. It just gives you a USB-A port if you have an iPhone, and you can plug a mic like this into it. And even if you don't want to download another app, even the Voice Memo app supports external mics, and you can actually go in there and say, "I want lossless audio." If you go into your settings.
Yeah.
So that's like a very quick and cheap and easy way and super portable. Like a mic like this just has a USB output. Plug it into this, right into the iPhone or iPad. You're good.
Yeah, and if you're just doing it by yourself, there's a lot of easy ways to do it. I think what I was trying to think of is most podcasts are some version of a roundtable. But if you're doing it by yourself, there's a lot of options. And you're right, just getting something directly in makes a difference. Go ahead, Sky.
TEA at ATTHREET at 3 is a podcast I'm doing with Graham Kerr, the former Galloping Gourmet, and I'd love some help because we are using his phonic hearing aids with his Bluetooth to broadcast to his iPad, and then we're recording everything on Zoom and then using all of the Zoom tools because that's what we had available to us. But if I can make it better, I'd love to hear your critique.
Well,
on that.
Post it in the.
Thank you.
Yeah, post it in Discord, and we'll take a look at it.
Wowzers!
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, sirs.
Yeah. We've been talking. Chris and I were talking. Chris Ritchie and I were talking about it. Is trying to figure out something that's threadable, that is kind of. I might create a section in Discord, and I'm trying to figure this out, where we say, put a show in and create threads for shows that people want feedback on. I'm just trying to figure out some way to naturally build threads inside of Discord that we can talk about it for a little while and then close it. It's not like we're going to talk about it forever, but we kind of review people's processes. I haven't figured it out yet, but go ahead and post it in Discord, and we'll give you feedback. It's the non-threadable. It's the lack of threads in Discord that have me the most trying to figure out something else.
I'll be happy to squeal like a guinea pig. So thank you.
Okay, all right, sounds good. Thanks, Chris. Go ahead. Next question.
Charles Klein says, for those using the 4066 and 4166 mics, what boom length did you choose?
I have to admit, I didn't know that there was a boom length. I just have mine's adjustable, so I can move it around. George.
Sorry, I'll let Tucker answer. I just want to chime in the conversation once Tucker gets to it.
Go ahead, Tucker.
Tucker had to bounce, but I'm looking at the DPA site, and it looks like size is medium and small. And then I'm looking at the end of the SKU, and yeah, if you change it, it's just medium or small. So
I would definitely get medium if I was going to pick between medium and small, because the worst thing is a headset that's too small. The too big, you can, again, these ones, I don't know how that one works, but this one adjusts. It slides in the assembly, slides in and out, and so I can only imagine that I have a medium. And now I will admit that I have a big head on so many levels, but I have a big I have literally physically a large head, and it makes everything harder to make everything fit, from everything from baseball caps to headset mics. Jeff.
The 4166 has a couple of different length booms, but again, I think you should go for the longest one unless you're fitting a child.
Yeah, no, I agree. Bill, and then Yashai.
Tucker's suggestion was, in fact, he did this in the mic checks before, was that you want to position the little boom arm mic head so that when you grin, it's right off the edge of the corner of your mouth. That was his suggestion earlier today in the mic checks.
That's mine's pretty much where I think you want. Yeah. What are you talking about? This is.
Oh, Alex, this is George. Quick question.
And that keeps you in the pop.
I actually went to the source and called DPA engineers, and what they say exactly what Bill was just saying, and he recommend usually to get the large. However, with the new 6066, the whole nice thing about the contraption on the ear, that they can slide the boom in and out, so they don't have anymore the issue of large and small. So the 6066 have a different approach for the fitting.
They just keep going. They just keep adding more numbers. That's how they get you. Go ahead, George, and then we're going to move on.
So, Alex, micro dot, right? What are you using as far as? Are you using XLR on the end of your cable?
Yeah. Mine's a micro dot to an XLR. I can't really. Let's see here. Hold on. So this is the micro dot to XLR.
Okay.
I have to admit that if I was going to do it again, I'd have it built straight to either a TA4 or TA3 and then get a converter from there to an XLR, because the microdot is, it's like it's fine on my desk. It is not. We just have the number one problem we have with wireless mics with DPAs is the microdot getting loose with people on stage. I mean, I don't know if Brian can attest to that, but it's like that is the devil. So I would rather have it hardlined into either a TA4. I'd rather have it hardlined in TA4 because I mostly use Shure interfaces. But you can always convert from that to an XLR. I'd rather do something like that than get a microdot at this point. Just because I know that people like the flexibility of it, and I get it. And if you're going to use it the way I'm using it, microdot's probably fine. But it is on people moving around. It's a thing. Anyway, let's go to the next question.
We've kind of beat this next question down, but somebody did
we'll ask it. No, that's right.
put a comment in. What mic are you using, and why not the PR40?
So I'm using a DPA 4066. I do use a PR40, Heil PR40 for Mac break because the 66 still isn't as full as far as the sound goes as the PR40. And so Leo prefers it. So I have one. And so I think the PR40, if I'm doing when I do a variety of other things, I use the PR40 for those things, for more things that are closer to just pure podcasting. And then I also, and this is kind of the 4066 is kind of a compromise for me of, I like to be able to move my head around and lean over and grab things. And the PR40 is going to have a lot of off axis rejection, which means it's not going to be, as I move away, you really can hear it. And so that's why I use the 4066, is that it's a relatively good sound that moves with my head. And so anyway, that's why I pick one over the other. Jan, you were going to say something real quick.
I just want to, on your connector, are you using an extension cable as well?
Yeah, I'm going, I have a 6-foot cable just that lets me move this around that goes into my Scorpio. Otherwise it'd be really tight on my head. Next question.
Next question, also about XLR cables. An XLR cable that is too long and rolled up from the mic to the mixer, can that cause noise in the signal?
Who wants to jump on it? Mickey, go ahead. Mickey, then Brian, then Jeff.
Technically, yes, but it depends on how long the run is, and also how low the signal that you're feeding through it is. That determines how bad the noise would be.
Yes, I'm going to post a link in the chat. I actually did a whole YouTube video on balanced audio and how it works, and all of the many myths of how it doesn't work. So I won't go into all that. Just go there and see. But if your signal is balanced, wire isn't balanced, signals are balanced. So if your output and your inputs are balanced, outputs and inputs, and the signal level is frankly anything other than extremely low mic level, you could put 1,000 feet of cable in a coil right on top of an extension cord running lights, and you will not have a noise issue. If any of the things I just said are not true, if it's not a balanced wire, if the signal is microscopically small, then yeah, you can have noise problems. But one of the biggest myths and it was kind of also in this question, which is why I'm going to mention it, is the whole running a cable parallel to a power cable is going to cause you buzz problems. In my experience, I've had that happen. Out of the 400,000 noises that I have traced in my career, one time that was the problem. It's almost never that. So long as you're actually running in balanced signals, that's the whole point of impedance balanced signal transport, if you will, is to eliminate noises that are induced from nearby electrical cables. So I'll post a link to that, and hopefully that will answer it even more.
Jeff?
I'll continue on. That's awesome, Brian. Yes, we need balance done properly. I'll continue on to say we need shielding. So on the outside of that is a shield. That's a Faraday cage that's going to take external noise and shunt it to ground. It must be connected to ground at least one end. If you're doing phantom power, that's also where your phantom power return is. So it needs to be connected at both ends for microphones. The other thing is, if you have a coil of cable, please coil it over-under method so you get opposite loops. So you're not making basically a pickup from a guitar. You're making a humbucking pickup. No Fenwick, not like that.
and generally, in general, if you're watching this and you don't know how to do over/under, there's lots of videos on YouTube. Maybe we'll make one that's clearer. I taught my kids when they were like 8 and 12 or 8 and 10, that there's a way to hand me wires and it's over under. And in the farm, we learned to do that, with rope to make sure that we could throw it, and it would just not tangle. But it has so many value as far as being able to take a mic cable and throw it out. It's valuable. But the other thing is it puts a lot less stress on the wire as you're coiling it. You're basically twisting it, and you're going to reduce the length of how long your cables are going to last before they start having issues. And it's just a lot easier to deal with. And it's a skill that you will gain respect or lose respect on site very, very fast. Like, I'm just like, if you want to know, if you want to advertise, it's like the lens, like over is like the lens flare of being on stage. It's like, I do not know what I'm doing here. And so if you pick up someone's mic cable and don't do and do that.
Power cables.
There's a whole bunch of judgments that will be made about you very, very fast. And they won't. No one will. And the thing is that people won't say anything, but they'll just decide that you don't know what you're talking about, and then you won't understand why no one's listening to you. Chris Summers.
Yeah, I want to hear what Chris Summers says, because there's an exception to this in our business.
Just in terms of over/under, I mean, that was one of the first things, and it was always a call out of who knew what they were doing. But I would get dodgy BNC or SDI cables. And if they were bad, someone taught me the best trick, and that is if you break it properly, they will fix it properly. And that meant just taking a Leatherman and snipping the end off so that they had to fix it, so it couldn't come back later.
We are ruthless about that. People will tell you on set, if I get a bad cable, I will literally say, find me scissors. I won't let go of the cable until someone hands me a pair of scissors so I can cut the end off. Because it is the devil. Like, if you have a bad cable with a loose connector or whatever, just cut it off. Like, I'd rather not have the signal than have it. Oh, it's loose, and if I just jiggle it, it'll work. No. Jeff.
The one that scares me worse than that is when someone comes with a piece of gear and the power cord has the ground pin snipped off. I will cut the end of that off right away, because that's going to kill somebody.
It's a ground lift, right?
Yeah. What was I? The one challenge is is to make sure that balance matters everywhere. So it's not just balanced in my, in somewhere in my pipe. The number one place that we see buzz getting added are those little pod things that people use for audio output. It's like it's a headphone jack to a XLR output. I can't think of what they're called right now, but iPod like a Pod IO or whatever. Those things are the devil, so because it's an unbalanced stereo output from your computer to an XLR, and it's really short. And I can't tell you how many times I've been listening to buzz, and I just walk over and I just unplug someone's Pod IO or whatever, and immediately the buzz disappears. And you got to it's in the whole show. It's every time they hit play, it's in the whole show, and I just unplug that, and I'm just like, you need to buy a USB pre. I just need you to just move on here. Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, just real quick, and the biggest reason why what Alex just described is an issue is because it's nearly always coming from a laptop, and every laptop has an external power supply, which is just a big giant transformer, and they always end up throwing the transformer right on top of that wire that's unbalanced, or right on top of the
wire. Just the wire of the power supply is enough to throw it off. And so you will find that if you're willing to run on battery, you can unplug it, and all the buzz will go away, but you just have to know that it's there. Anyway, next question.
Jeffrey Reyes wants to know, Alex, what do you have showing on your teleprompter?
My teleprompter has the second screen of the Zoom. So it's the second screen of the Zoom is up there, so I can see Chris in full aperture. So yeah, Chris Fenwick, I can see Fenwick in full aperture. So it's basically
So what's
whatever
interesting is not everybody gets a different feed on their second feed. So I never see me on the second feed.
Yeah. No, you'll never see yourself because it's a video mix minus. So it's that
Cool.
second feed is a video mix minus. It's the way Hangouts work and everything else. And so it's never sending you back yourself. You'll always see the last person that talked or the person who's talking at that moment. And so I use that. I sometimes pull it off when someone does screen share because the monitor isn't. It has to be a little darker, and then I've got bright lights right over it, so it's hard for me to see what's going on. I can see someone that I'm talking to, but anyway, so that's what I put on my teleprompter. Next question.
I'm looking to buy an Egato CamLink 4K. Ideally, I want to use my Lumix G7 DSLR camera. Anything better for the money?
I think that a lot of people have been really successful with the Elgatos. Yeah, for the money at that price or lower. I don't think that there's anything that is as good as what it does. So I think anyone. Oh, go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry, Jesse Swartz.
I've got a Pango from B&H that was $90. It's pretty good. I mean, it would be interesting for someone to do a test on different capture cards to see if it affects the video.
There's been definitely some talk where some folks have gotten cheaper ones that are that have much different color, and so I think that I do want to see if we can collect a whole bunch of HDMI to USB-C or Firewire or Thunderbolt connectors, and just see put up against charts and really look at it and compare them to a raw capture, because I think that there is an issue. I think there are some that are definitely having issues.
No, it's true to the extent that I bought one that was even cheaper for $70 on Amazon, and I returned it. I had the two at the same time, the one from B&H that was 90, the Pango, and this no-name one from Amazon. And the Amazon one created a much darker tint, and it almost had the screening effect. Yeah.
But I also want to check even the webcam.
Yeah.
To be fair, go ahead, Jesse.
I'm waiting on an ATEM to use as my capture card. They're just not around. But I am curious if I ever get one and I can compare it to this to see whether there's a difference in the color and all that.
And I just got an Ultra Studio to test against this, Ultra Studio 4K to test against my web presenter, because I feel like my web presenter is more saturated and darker than my raw. What I see every other monitor of my feed it looks lighter and less contrasty, and so I'm going into that because it could be a lot of these. They are making a conversion, and so I'm gonna do some research on that. Anyway, next question. We're gonna start moving really fast because we're not making much headway. People keep on asking questions. So anyway, go ahead.
DAWs, which one would you recommend students interested in learning radio production?
Brian, Reaper. Oh,
Yeah. I think probably Reaper. It's only because it's so powerful and so inexpensive. It's very hard to beat that. And for radio production, your needs are not anything beyond what you would need in Reaper. Now, I will say that a caveat, and someone else would almost certainly be able to chime in better with me, if you need to trade files back and forth between other people who are doing radio production, Mickey's nodding his head. If there is, if Pro Tools or Logic or whatever is what most people are using, then that's probably what you should be using.
Right. And the student cost, by the way, for students, I think the student cost on Logic is almost nothing. So it's like you get the whole suite for like $200 for Final Cut and Motion. I think like Final Cut, Motion, Logic, everything. I think is all like $200. Yashai?
If you're Adobe Creative Cloud user, I highly recommended Audition. Audition used to be Cool Edit, and it's a really, really very powerful DAW. And actually, all the radio used to use that before.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question.
This is an interesting one. How does the Ursa Broadcast handle a low light stage for LECO front lights and a long 55-foot throw from the camera to the stage? He's tested and liked the Panasonic AU-EVA1, which has a Super 35 sensor, but he'd rather stay in the Blackmagic ecosystem with broadcast lenses.
Well, and he's got broadcast, and with the broadcast, well, so there's a couple things there. So the broadcast version of the Ursa is much less light sensitive than the Ursa minis. So it's a smaller sensor. It's a 2/3 inch sensor instead of a Super 35. So that's the same 4K resolution on a chip that is less than half the size. That means your photo sites are smaller. There's going to be more errata, which means that your grain is going to be higher. And so we see, like, from a low light perspective on the Ursa broadcast, it is not competitive with many other 2/3 inch sensors. Now you're looking at the EVA 1, which is a Super 35 sensor. And so if you're going to go to Super 35, then I think that you're going to find that the Ursas are pretty competitive. I have not tested an Ursa head to head with an EVA 1. I'm going to guess that they are pretty darn close, in quality. I wouldn't test an Ursa against an ARRI, but against the EVA 1, I bet you it's not that far away. But I will say that we definitely noticed light, not a huge drop in light sensitivity on the broadcast cameras when we tested them. Mickey?
Yeah, the EVA 1 comes with 2 native ISOs, one being 800 ASA or 800 ISO, and I think the higher one being 2500 ISO. So in terms of sensitivity, it's much you'll do better with the EVA. So if you've tested with the EVA, yeah, it might not compare.
Yeah, and I mean, I would still say that 55 feet would still be within the range that I'd be willing to do a Super 35. Once you get to about 75 feet, I feel like you have to switch to 2/3, or the camera operator has to be amazing, to keep people in focus on stage at more than 75 feet. Even at 75 feet, we usually get very senior camera operators to manage that focus. They really have to know what they're doing, because they've got typically 8 to 10 inches of sharpness at best at that range and at that sensor size, especially with any kind of reasonable amount of lighting. Next question.
Has anyone used the NDI 4K huddle cam?
Guy, is that what you're using? Or is that what you were using? Yeah.
That one I plugged into my network, and I think that it was on a separate VLAN, so it didn't actually appear, but I have its brother right here. This is the USB version. So the cool thing about the USB version is it does have an HDMI out, so usually I have this plugged into my switcher. The nice thing with the NDI version is I think it's the cheapest NDI camera out on the market, $499, and it does have the remote control, so then you can pan, tilt, zoom, and set up the presets. So you can actually say, if you're shooting a band or something, you could have the guitarist, the drummer, well, depending on how you have the camera position, but you can frame up people and then hit it as a preset. So it's like having multiple cameras in one. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the cheapest NDI camera on the market.
Multiples of multiples. Could you list that, please? I didn't.
It's linked. I think somebody linked it already.
Are you able to pair those controllers so that if you had, like, let's say 3 of those cameras, you could make sure that your controller was only affecting them?
Yeah, on this remote control, there's 4. And then if you open up like the free NDI tools from NewTek, you can pick which camera you're controlling, and then you actually have PTZ control. So even though there's no physical things moving in this, it's an electronic PTZ. So it's a 4K chip, and you're just moving around an HD size window inside that chip, but it doesn't make any noise. So when you actually go to cut, you're jumping right to that frame.
Well, and one of the things to think about also as you start to get into things like teleprompters, this makes a very compact teleprompter that you could theoretically build with this. One of the problems we have with teleprompters specifically is if you put a teleprompter behind if you put a PTZ behind a teleprompter, it's really hard because there's a piece of glass in front of it. So there are some teleprompters that are built for PTZs, but you have a very limited range of motion inside of that frame because of the glass. Or you take the teleprompter and you hang it off of a big PTZ head. So you have a small teleprompter on a pretty heavy motored head. The Telemetrics makes these, and so the issue you get into is now it's heavy and it's moving around. The thing that I look at when I saw this that I'd love to test is really with that kind of camera, you could build a teleprompter that is relatively compact, but you can still do pan tilt zoom inside of it. And we've had that need many times. So it's an interesting puzzle there. Mike Andrews, you're going to say something, then we're going to move on.
Yeah, well, I've got the USB version right here, and the thing that I discovered is there's a non-screen menu where you can adjust contrast, colors, tuning the whole deal, and it has the follow me feature. So as you walk around, the camera stays on you. It's
cool.
pretty amazing, you know.
Yeah, great little camera. Next question.
Randy Egan says, looking for a solution to connect Windows 10 machine to a Mac OS machine remotely, including audio, for video editing.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Roscoe.
Yeah, I had to do this recently, but it's not truly editing. It's just I could do trims. I used the Chrome Remote Desktop to get to the remote computer, and then I used Zoom to actually hear the audio back. So I could do the trims, I could review the video, but if I'm trying to do frame-by-frame editing, no, the latency will just kill you.
Interesting. Yeah, so that's a good one. TeamViewer, other things, whatever you're going to use for the controller, and then use whether it's, I think Skype is probably going to be the lowest latency. You're not going to see the same quality, but it's going to be the lowest latency that you'd get back. Go ahead, Chris Summers, you were going to say?
Is No Machine a valid product at this point?
No Machine?
No Machine. I'll put a link in the chat.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with it. Jan, go ahead, and then we're going to move on. Mickey, I'll come to you, Mickey.
I think Parallels Access might be exactly what you need, because it puts Windows on a Mac, and it just it's like TeamViewer or anything like that, but it works really, really well.
But I think that the issue is that the theory I had was that the Windows machine is somewhere else. That they're trying to get to it, not on the same computer.
If the Windows machine is somewhere else, Parallels Access, I'm using it right now. There doesn't seem to be any latency, but I'm not using it to edit video.
Okay, Chris, and then Mick.
Just to qualify No Machine, Black Ginger, a post house that my cousin runs in South Africa. Everyone's working remotely right now, and that's the system that they're using to connect to their systems in the office from home.
Are they still using the car robot arms for stop motion? Do they still have those guys? Is anything happening there? That was amazing.
I'll ask.
When I remember being there, they were doing a stop motion, and they're using what was old arms that you'd use for an auto manufacturing, and they were using it as camera controller, and it was doing stereo, so you could design it, and it would go, and it was amazing. It was the coolest thing I saw on that trip. Anyway, so Mickey, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, I'm not sure about how cross-platform these are, but check out Teradici and also Parsec. I know people using those, but I think they're all on PCs, so yeah, just check them out.
I can second Parsec. It's very good. Very low latency.
Jonas says, what do you think of the Living as One encoder and their protocol? And Chris S has a really long response to that, and I'm just going to leave it at that response because I don't know it that well. I know we've looked at it for some clients and thought that it was easy if you just need to plug something in and turn it on and have it work. Like, that's how I looked at it. I was like, oh, that could be easy. It's not something I would use, but it seemed like. Garrick, go ahead.
I think it was created mainly for point-to-point multi-site streaming, not really as a live streaming platform to go out to the internet. Now, I think they have made it something that does that now. But when we looked at them a year or so ago, they didn't even have Facebook Live integration or anything like that. It was just strictly point-to-point for mainly churches that didn't have great internet.
Yep. Yeah, so it's been one of those things that we haven't. I looked at it and said, "Oh, I'd rather build something than use that." But I definitely could see if you were a church that didn't want to think about, didn't have the technical chops and just wanted to make something work. They've built something that's relatively low impact. But there's a more detailed answer from Chris S that's there. Go ahead and read that, and definitely bring it up. You're more than welcome to bring it up in Discord as well. And the next question.
What's a good budget headset mic? I already have a decent pack. It's a Fafine? I don't know if that's a typo or.
We have a wide range of these. It depends on what budget means to you. I think is the thing that, we Samsung makes one. This is a 10T, stuck under my switcher. So this is the Samsung headset mic. That's the 10T. This I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the one ear Samsung thing with the little rubber thing. I had it. I killed it for another reason, but so this isn't for $100 or whatever. This isn't a bad solution. Jan has talked about a little bit about the point source one that we may have an opportunity to couple of them laying around that is going to be higher quality. I use a DPA. Jeff, you were going to say?
Looking at the Fifiend site, that Samsung is twice the cost of his decent pack.
Okay, yeah. So then I think I would. The Samsung's probably the right angle. I wouldn't go below the Samsung. I have tested many of the headsets below the Samsung, and I would say it's all bad below that. I bought like 5 of them. You go. The Samsung is it's not the best mic in the world. It's not bad. It's a good value at $100. Everything below that, to me, is just almost unlistenable. Jeff?
I wonder if other mics will even work with those packs, whether they'll provide power for it, whether it's a standard connector. Right. Can't really tell from their site.
Colin, really quick. 15 seconds.
I have a Fifiend right here. Right here. It's a P3 connector. It does provide power. It's I tried it with the Samsung and I found it totally unsatisfactory. I narrowed the problem down to the Samsung connectors. I don't know if it was just my mic or just my cable or what. It was not good.
And then Jan, we're going to move to 15 seconds. We're going to move to speed round.
If you're doing audio, do not skimp on the money. Just take your budget, expand it, get the best thing that you can.
But the best, there's no limit to the best. That's the problem with audio or all the things that we're talking about. There is no limit there's no upper limit. You know, the headset that I really want that someday you guys will see me there is this Neumann that's got a big old receiver and thing. That's $2,000. So anyway, so let's move on. Okay, now we're going to do basically really fast. If I come to you, answer it in 15 or 20 seconds. Don't do any build up. Just put the answer in. We're going to go through the speed round. Go ahead, Chris.
I want to hook up a dynamic mic directly to my Mac or PC, XLR to USB, but the level is too low. What's a good preamp or amp to use? And I've put a link in the chat for the Cloud Lifter. A lot of people use it like on SM7Bs.
This one has been used. Oh, go ahead. That is a Jeff Francis.
That's a Triton FET head, which is exactly like the Cloud Lifter. It's a Phantom powered 20 dB boost.
Yeah.
And the thing that I've never had trouble with dynamic mics is this is the Shure X2U. This is a USB powered, and you can see that it's pretty beat up because it's been in my bag for a long time, and it's survived. So anyway, so that's what I use, and I found that it has enough headroom to take most dynamic mics to where I need it to go. Go ahead, Chris.
I was moving on. Speed round.
Move on.
Okay.
Let's go.
Has anyone used the new Google Meet as an alternative to Zoom?
We all have. We had a problem with Zoom a couple of weeks ago. We all have, and we hate it. Sorry. Google Meet's fine for a handful of people. Here's what I'll say is that if you're doing as a replacement for Zoom for up to 8 people, I think it's okay. The way it manages Windows, it doesn't have built in a grid like this. And if you download the app, we have had multiple people download the grid extension for Chrome and literally had it thump their PC. Like they had to build it back up from scratch. Like, so do not under any circumstances put that grid plug-in in. I don't know what causes it, and we haven't seen it on the Mac, but we've seen PCs, specifically Surfaces, just go into the ground, on that literally right after they put that in. So it is a one-to-one relationship to us. I've seen it multiple times. There's no real grid. How they choose to show people on the side is goofy. There's no way to get any kind. I think that I'm in Meet at least once a day, along with WebEx, BlueJeans, Zoom, and Skype. Almost every day I'm in all of those. And Zoom is by far, when you get anything more than 8 people, there's nothing competitive over 8, in my opinion, and that's why we're using it. Like if not. If you're under 8, they all work. They're fine. They all have their weird whatever. But if you're over 8, then you need to. Zoom is the only one that's really there right now. Now, next question.
Paul Holman needs a KVM recommendation to access a machine room Macintosh from 2 rooms. He needs 8 HDMI × 2 and USB 3.
I would really use Apple Remote Desktop, like for that. Yeah, I don't think I wouldn't use a KVM for that solution. I'd use Remote Desktop. Let's go to the next one because we're kind of in a speed round. Unless someone goes like this, I'm just going to keep moving. All right, keep going.
Troy Warrior says he wants your thoughts on Chrlie Rose's set design for a webcast.
I love it.
Why?
Until because it just keeps you focused on people. And I have to admit that until Chrlie Rose had his issues, I watched him all the time, and it was my dream that someday I would do something important enough to end up on Chrlie Rose. But I watched Chrlie Rose almost from the inception, and what I love about it is that, and we used to do Leo's twit. I designed Leo's twit for a while, and we did it all in black, and we did Chrlie Rose style, and it totally what it does is it keeps you focused on the people talking. It is like it's not about the set. It's not about what we're doing. It's about the people who are talking. It's a table and it's 2 people talking and it's just a conversation. And Chrlie Rose has a whole bunch of his own issues, and so I'm not defending that in any way. But he's a really good interviewer, And he did it was a great conversation, and it just kept you focused. And it's harder than it looks. So I did this week after week after week for Twit in multiple locations. You have to have really the lights are actually pretty high up and pretty bright, because that area in that center part has to fall off really fast to get to the black curtains. And then we tended to have to adjust the blacks just a little bit and tighten them so that we would knock the whole black out. So just over black. But I think it's a great platform. And Bill, 15 seconds.
Less than that, it probably also compresses extraordinarily well. It's most of the pixels are 000.
Yeah, from a streaming perspective, and it is incredible. I mean, like you can stream. It is everybody. If you stream a 1080p stream over black, everybody is razor sharp because it's not spending any bits on the outer edges. It's a super efficient way to do that. Anyway, next question.
Inexpensive test generators.
Your Mac. Phones. There's some test generators you can get on phones that have HDMI out, and there's a ask that again. I'll make sure that I find it. I have a little generator that's like this little USB, the HDMI generator that you can put files on that is super useful for that, and for inexpensive. But we'll move on. But we'll come back to that. I'll try to find that in my. I have to go spelunking in my garage.
Our clients now we know your afternoon is shot. Our clients occasionally want pre-recorded content that contains intellectual property we don't want distributed widely. Widely is the key. Is there a VOD type service that will count streams and views and then shut off access at a predefined point? Interesting.
I was trying to solve that live, and I don't. I mean, there's lots of VOD type services. I mean, live stream would do that. You could say, cut it off after a certain number of viewers. If I was going to do that, I'd probably use something like AWS and roll my own, because then you'd have the control to basically set up logic that says, when I see this many downloads, I send to thing to stop, or to change. So you would need something if you're really going to have it watch it and get to a certain number of views and then cut it off. That's a logic that you have to build. Bill and then Elliot, but 15 seconds each.
Sure. Frame.io, it has world-class security in there, so just tell them to throw everything up in there and only talk there.
No. I think this is for public consumption. It's not like a works consumption thing. I think it's a public, like they want to put it out to people. I think. Go ahead, Elliot, and then 15 seconds. Hello? Okay, we'll move on. Annie, next question.
Any decent, affordable alternatives to AirPods? Not always. I want to be on screen. He doesn't want to be on screen with massive headphones.
So, I mean, I would get IFBs. I would get an auto IFB. It's $50 or $70 or whatever, and put it in as wired. That's going to look the nicest. It's just going to, and then you put it in as wired. The wireless thing, unless you have to, I wouldn't bother. So if you really want wireless, you can get a Phonak. Anyway, next question.
Older Canon XHA1 It's in good shape. Has Firewire out. He wants to convert it to SDI. Is there such a box? Firewire to SDI.
I don't think there is. I don't think there is an SDI, a Firewire to SDI. You shy? We're going over. So Jeffrey, get ready. We're going to come to you. We're coming in hot.
Is it Firewire or HDMI to SDI?
No, it's Firewire.
It says Firewire.
You'd have to. I think you'd have to go.
It has Firewire, composite,
component.
and component
so
out.
You do a component to an Ultra Studio to your input.
Firewire to the computer and then HDMI out of the computer.
No. I would definitely, an Ultra Studio is the way you want to go. An Ultra Studio that has component in, or a AGA, something that has component in. You do component to that, and then to your thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question.
Yeah, you wouldn't. You wouldn't want to go Firewire because you're smashing that color space down. You want to go just out the component and then go. So the $195 Blackmagic device is probably the best way to go, or get rid of that camera. It's old. Come on, wake up.
Go ahead, Chris.
Well, Golner wants to know the meaning of life. I'll skip that.
Hey, it's
42.
I want to answer that. It's 42. I mean, come on, it's 42. All right. Okay, we're gonna move on. We're running late.
We'll move on.
Sorry, we're a minute off. So now we are shifting gears. A couple weeks ago, we had someone's got an open mic. Now we have. A couple weeks ago, we talked about vMix. We obviously talk a lot about Blackmagic. And Jeffrey Powers offered to come on and show us Wirecast. I started a lot of my stuff in Wirecast, so I'm excited to see where Jeffrey goes with this. I think it's an incredible platform with a lot of flexibility, and it's grown a lot, and it's really one of the heavy hitters as far as that process goes. And so I think that it'll be interesting to see. It's something that I think within what a lot of people need, especially in the areas of where its target market is, I think it's a really good solution. So without further ado, we're going to hand it off to Jeffrey